Simmental bulls I've seen anywhere in the world. And I think this bull's got a tremendous future, so I'm quite confident in discussing him and knowing that it's going to be a positive experience. So firstly, he's masculine. If you look through his head and neck and through his shoulder, this bull, even at this young age, is displaying outstanding secondary sexual traits. A bull that there's no doubt when you look at him that there's testosterone pumping through this bull's veins. Then you look at his testicle size, shape, and suspension, and also tremendously good shape and size for his age on this bull. So he's showing you that earlier maturity pattern and that masculinity at this young age. And that comes with that inherent body condition. He's a softer, easier doing type bull to go with that tremendous muscle shape that he's got. And that muscle, if you look, as his chine blends back into his spine and his shoulder blends back into his forearm, he's extremely well muscled over his body, from hip to pin, over his top hip and rump. And as you can see how wide he is from stifle to stifle, how full he is in his twist or his inner thigh, an extremely, extremely well muscled bull. Also on this bull, great muzzle on him and a strong jaw. It's essential on our sires that we have that strong muzzle and jaw for the same reasons as we did with the female. But the bulls need to have some grunt or punch to them. We need these bulls to have some extra to them. They need to be manly from a young age, because that testosterone is what's going to produce muscle. That testosterone is what's going to produce fertility, and that's going to get your cows bred. Base width is essential in bulls too, because that gives you that dimension, so the chest floor and the base width. This bull's incredibly good on his feet and legs too, and one trick when watching a bull standing, if you can just pull him forward a little bit, trek hom net bietjie vorentoe, is when you look at the dew claws, the direction the dew claws are pointing when the bull's standing shows you how sound he's going to be on his feet and legs in terms of where he's going to place his foot when he moves. And we want these toes to be square and of equal size with some heel depth, but we also want them to hit the ground accurately. We don't want them to land on an outside foot. We want them to hit the ground accurately, and we want them to track well, which means that hind leg needs to land where the front leg was, ideally to show you structural soundness. Suspension of the testicles on a bull has a lot to do with adaptability, and also it correlates with udder suspension on your cows. So you want those testicles suspended well. Now what happens with breeds, so this is a European breed, if you stress these cattle climatically, if they're in the tropics or subtropics and heat and humidity gets too much for them, as they tropically degenerate, one of the first things that happens is the scrotum drops, because that scrotum neck is regulating temperature in the testicles. So you'll often find with your British and European breeds, if they're in an environment they're not adapted to, they get those long scrotums, and that's obviously a longevity issue as well. The other thing that causes a long scrotum is too much food. So when you put the hammer down or put the accelerator down on feeding these cattle too hard and they get fat in that scrotum neck, that's going to lengthen the scrotum too, and that compromises the testicles and obviously fertility at that point. With our females, what I didn't mention is the widest part of a functionally efficient female is her center rib. You know, when you look at the rib from the side, right in the middle, when you look from the back, right in the middle, when she's the widest there, it means her endocrinology is working, all her glandular function is working, and she's functionally efficient and fertile at that point. Now, the minute, and you'll often see this with cows, you see the more prominent part of the cow being the hip bones, and they start calcifying, and then you don't see the rib cage. Something's wrong inside with that cow. So she's not hormonally balanced and her endocrine's not working. With a bull, the widest part of a bull is the lower part of his rib cage. So that sweep, that under rib cage of his needs to be the widest part of him. If the hips or the hindquarter are the widest, again, you're slightly off balance in terms of hormonal balance, and it's going to affect your fertility. This calf already has that incredible lower rib cage to him. Skin on these cattle, like in our environment where we are in Namibia, these cattle need that extra skin for softness, that's durability, but also for adaptability to have that extra skin. So I probably err to the point of allowing a bit more sheath than some other people would. This sheath doesn't bother me on this Simmental bull. There are guys who will tighten those sheaths up to where there's almost no sheath, and from a functionality standpoint, that's fine. But when you do that, you tend to lose bone, you tend to lose overall height, and you dry up your muscle, and naturally your testicles become smaller too because you lose that functional efficiency and fertility. So it's a game of balance, really, and I think the difficult thing with this is often when we're finding the best cattle, they're not the biggest or longest or thickest. They're not the ones with the most muscle or the most milk or the most growth, or in the case of some breeds, the most marbling. The most profitable animal is the one that is the most average at everything. And it's difficult. I mean, that's a difficult thing to market, being average. But they are the profitable cattle in the end. And I think that's where harmony and balance comes into play. And this bull is incredibly harmonious in how he transitions from one body part to the next. And he's very natural in his muscle shape too. Like, this bull hasn't been over pushed to get him into that shape, and he's got that extra fleshing ability and fat over his top and over his rib cage. Are there any questions on the bull, or was that logical after the female? We're good. Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you listening to all that rambling.
Baie dankie DJ, dit was baie insiggewend en ek dink hierdie man het so stil gesit soos in die kerk. Hulle het net geluister, hulle is bang die dominee vra hom 'n vraag. Okay, nou gaan